Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. How are you today? I'm doing pretty well. And for those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Lisa Marie Eard. I am the Collegiate Success Coach with Campus Bound GPS. And this is October Tips. Yep, we're still in October and we're still bringing tips to you on a daily basis. And I'm super excited because this is day 24. So we're almost towards the end of October. So if you've missed any tips, feel free to jump onto YouTube, jump onto LinkedIn, jump onto my Facebook page, the Campus Bound GPS Facebook page, and just kind of take a look and see what you might have missed. And maybe there's something in there that can help you, a student, you, a parent who's going through the college application process and who may be going through, having a little rough time because there's so much going on with it. But at the end, hopefully, there's a tip in there that will be able to assist you to help you navigate the college application process. So tonight, I am welcoming back a guest from one of our from last year, I believe she was on last year, Zedralyn Butler. And I am so glad. I'm going to call her Z because I don't want to muck up the name Zedralyn if I say it too often. It's a beautiful name, but Z is much simpler for me. So without further ado, I want to say hello and welcome, Z. Welcome back. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am awesome. So let me introduce Z. Z. Let me introduce Z. Is the CEO and founder of oh goodness, this is the wrong sheet that I'm reading off of. Let me see. The Ball Code. Is that right? So I'm going off
Yes.
of memory now. The Ball Code, and she is an author of her latest book, and I'm going to have you talk about it a little bit because why not, right? You are a proponent for student athletes, and I am so glad to have you on Campus Bound GPS October Tips. So welcome back.
Thank you. It is so good to be back to talk about these tips. So I'm excited to chat with you.
Awesome. So your tip this year is make a wise choice. And
Mhm.
we've been going on that theme a lot, but I like the varying perspectives that we've had. And your perspective is a little different as well because you're
Mhm.
dealing with a student athlete as well. I know some of these tips can apply to students who are non athletes, but your background is with student athletes as well.
That's right. Yes. I was an athlete. I played at the Division 1 level. I played basketball, women's basketball, in both the NJCAA, which is your junior college, as well as your regular NCAA 4 year school. So I've seen some things. I've mentally took notes of things from when I was in school. So to kind of look back and realize some of the things that I've been through, as well as talking to others, I've chosen to do my part in filling in the gaps with the student athletes with the decisions that they make.
Nice. So we have one of my good friends, Jamila Galt, looking on. Hi, Jamila. How are you? And welcome to the conversation. So Z,
Mhm.
your tip. Your tip is make a wise choice. What is making a wise choice? And please explain to, and I'm assuming these are for our students, right?
Yes, yes, most definitely. Um, there are a lot of different factors to look at when you're making a decision on which college to attend. And it's a big decision. It's a big decision that you have 17 and 18-year-olds making. Making sure that they're on the right path. Is this the right fit for them? You won't ever know 100% if that is the right school for you, but there are some things that that you should consider when making those decisions. So what drove me to this is, especially in the athletic world, we know we've been introduced to the transfer portal. It was something that has always been, but there were some changes, some modifications to it. And what was happening was athletes were going into the transfer portal to transfer to other schools for various reasons. But one reason that I am quite curious is, did they make the right decision in the first place? So sometimes we may not make the best out of the visit, the college visit that we attend. We aren't asking the right questions, or we're somewhere around the questions that we need to ask, but may not ask the specific questions that we need asked. Um, Sometimes we may go off of, like, what does the school look like? Is it appealing? We may go off of the whatever factors is important. Of course, as parents, we tend to think, oh, well, this might be a best fit, but the student may say, well, this school looks fun. This looks like they have a lot of fun here, but is it the right decision? So in the transfer portal, you had athletes who really weren't happy with the decision that they made, maybe possibly because the coaches would come and recruit them, and they'll say one thing in the recruiting, and then once they get to school, it's completely different. The personality of the coach may not even be the same. So that really kind of hinders that student athlete, and it messes with them mentally. They don't want to be here. And it makes it harder when they actually get into the transfer portal, because it's not promising that you'll actually get picked up by another school in the transfer portal. So as many students that go in, it's not really 100% guaranteed that you go out. So what does that mean? Well, can I go back to the team? No, probably because the coach has already filled your spot. And then you have to question, is this the right school for me now? So one thing that you would have to do is find the right college. And when you find the right college, you should come up with a list of colleges that you think is interesting for you. Um, and be careful not to count out the smaller schools. A lot of us, we want to go off of like the materialistic things and what we can see, and oh, this is so pretty, and oh, that's cool. They have this and they have that. But there may be other factors like the culture that's around, the environment that the city uh, hosts the institution in. It may just not be the right fit, or there's an adjustment period. Um,
Let me ask you this, because when it comes to student athletes, a lot of student athletes feel, well, if these schools pick me up, then that's the only way that I'll be able to go to college.
mhm,
So when you're looking at, students that, or student athletes that get to an institution and they realize, wow, this is not a good fit, this what you're explaining is how not to get to that spot.
yes.
So and I think it's really important, 'cause my children were both student athletes, and it's hard, for parents navigating the recruiting process. But I think it's even a lot more stressful, because some kids are like, I remember my daughter's telling me, the only way I'll get to college is if I play basketball. And I'm like, stop.
Mhm,
I was like, stop it right now. We're not
yes.
having this conversation. We're not going in that direction. But,
Mhm,
thinking about it, yes, it is stressful. It is something that a lot of student athletes feel. And whereas you may have some students on the team being heavily recruited, but then
mhm.
there are others who feel like they're at that same level that they should be, and things aren't happening. It it does work
Absolutely.
mental.
Absolutely. And that's one reason why I try to push academics. Academics is so, 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 so important in many ways. You have some student athletes where their talent level may not be as high as those who are heavily recruited. However, academics play a part. I mean, even for the Division 3 level, where um, they don't give out scholarships. You have a lot of student athletes that realize that, oh, if I'm making the grades, if my GPA is a 4.0 or somewhere near that, they can get academic scholarships. And what a lot of them do is they get those academic scholarships and they go to the coach and see if they can walk on. And there have been some stories that lead to getting on the team just based off of your academics. That's Another reason why that's important is because a team has to maintain a certain GPA, and individually, you have to maintain a certain GPA in order to play. So, for the student athletes that may be heavily recruited and may be struggling a little in the academic area, well, for the student athlete that has a higher GPA, that can help balance out the team's overall GPA. And so, there are coaches that, there are some coaches that will accept that because they know that they're going to need help raising their overall team's GPA. So academics is so important, and is another way, another route to get to college to play.
Mm-hmm. So let's
Yes,
get back to making that wise choice.
yes, yes. So another thing that's important is, once you get those lists together, then you have to start looking at what's important to you. What are your values? What factors are going to play a role in your college choice? So there's a process of elimination. I mentioned an example earlier. For example, what type of culture would you like to be in? What's going to be comfortable for you? What's going to be an easier adjustment for you? That plays a huge part. Um, I know that I'm actually from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I probably said that country, Arkansas, and and the population here is predominantly African American. We have a HBCU here, which is the only university that we have here. And at the 4-year school that I attend to, it was the complete opposite. It was the complete opposite, and it was an adjustment period for me because it was something that it wasn't too hard because of the high school that I went to, but it was something that, yeah, I had to adjust myself to it. It grew me up. I guess you could say that. Um, Other factors that you should be thinking about is, for the athletes. Is it important to you to have playing time? Are you gonna? Do you understand that you may not have that much playing time, because in high school you could be the star athlete there, but that may not mean much once you get to the college level because the competition is stronger and it's faster and things like that. Um, do you mind being far away from home? Is that going to be a factor? I know I was ready to get out. I went to school in Texas and I was excited about the move. I really was. But I also had teammates that they were very homesick, very, very homesick. And she was only an hour away. I'm like, girl, I'm 4 hours away and I'm fine. But it was a different culture for her. So that was a little stressful. Those are just a few of the factors that you should think about. Another thing is for the athletes, does does the major that I choose, do those courses interfere with practice time? You'll have coaches that
Wait a minute.
um,
This is
may
this.
or may not be.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So I want you to go be really precise with this one because in some, well, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna just back. This is a good one.
Yeah, so I have actually came across where um, it I've seen it to be difficult for, let's say, a football player. Well, if a football player wants to go to school and wants to become an engineer, those courses are going to be pretty strenuous. So the coach basically told that player, "Look, I brought you here to play football. So do what you have to do. Either you're going to play football or you're not going to be on the team. So you might want to choose another major." Which again could also lead to a reason for some students going into the transfer portal because they got there and realized, now look, I need to try another school. But really think about the courses that you want to take, the major that you want to major in, because practice is during the daytime. You'll have 2 days sometimes. You start early in the morning. And if you cannot balance that, just kind of be prepared uh, to make an adjustment, sadly. But um, that definitely is something that people don't really think about. They don't really think about. And what they really want to become, they've placed it secondhand to the sports rather
Mm.
than being hand in hand with the sport.
I remember my son telling me, he said, Mommy, I want to play basketball. And he said he wanted to be an engineer. But
Oh.
thankful for me, um, he didn't play in college and he focused on engineering. But he did
Mhm,
face that reality when he was being
mhm.
recruited that he might have to select a different major. And
Yeah.
he ended up playing intramural basketball or travel. I think it was a travel intramural team. So he still got
Mhm.
the best of both worlds, but that's
Yeah.
still a reality for a lot of children out, students out there, student athletes out there,
Mhm.
that you have
Exactly.
to really, especially with the high profile sports on the
Mhm.
NCAA Division I level. There's a
Mhm.
lot that goes into that. It's a business.
Absolutely. It definitely is a business. It definitely is that, and by all means necessary, because coaches want to win. They want to keep their job. They want to have that job security, and so they're recruiting these players. In a sense, now don't get me wrong, there are some incredible coaches out there that are huge supporters of the educational choice. And as far in terms of the courses that you have to take and being on top of that, but that's also a responsibility of the student athlete being able to balance. That's why you got the term student athlete, because you're supposed to be a student first. um, it's difficult sometimes, because I always say that it's like working two full-time jobs, as far as being a student and an athlete. That's a lot of balance there. That's something that you just have to adjust to. That's something that you have to master.
But there are, and I think, now that I'm thinking about it too, there are some things when you're talking about asking the right questions. One of the
Hmm.
questions is how do you support the academics for your student athletes? I do remember when my daughter was being recruited, one of the schools said that they have strong study sessions, but also they have group, and I think they had one-on-one. They brought in some of their alumni to help guide and coach the student athlete, the student part of it,
Hmm.
just to make sure that they were on top of things. So I think that kind of culture is really important, where the university, the college or university, really has a support system for the
Hmm.
athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. Just about every school that I know of, they do have that study hall period where either you can study as a group, or you may have an academic center for the athletes that can go in and they can get on the computers, they can study. But it is so imperative. That's kind of the welcome to young adulthood, where the student athlete still has to take on that responsibility of actually studying when you have that time frame, because you have to think about games when it's time to play. There'll be some classes that you may miss and have to catch up on. And we know that if you miss one day of college, that's kind of equivalent to a week, or more, depending on your block schedule. But it's so imperative to do that. And then I had the privilege to. I know my coach mentioned to me all the time. If you go through work study, you can be paid to be a tutor. You can tutor your own teammates. And then that was definitely an option for me. But they do have tutors, and if you have those tutors, please use them, because um, it's hard to catch up when you've missed. Making sure that you have that open conversation with your instructors beforehand. Go to their offices, talk to them before class, just to let them know that you really, really do value your education.
And that is honestly making a wise choice as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you'll have some instructors that are excited that they have an athlete in their class. That's exciting. And then you have some instructors that are like, that means nothing to me. You still have to do what I tell you to do. And yes, you do. But, it just really, if you open up your personality to your instructors, and build that relationship and that rapport with them, they'll work with you, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, wow.
Hopefully.
So, okay, so let's kind of go through some of the things you mentioned. You mentioned finding the right college, looking
Mhm.
into it and making sure that it's a good fit for you. Going through
Yes.
the going through your list and creating that process of elimination, and
Mhm.
going through that and saying, yeah, you know what? I think this may work, but to really further narrow it down, asking the right questions and go on those visits, and do your
Yes.
research. And
Mhm.
one of the one of the most beneficial questions is what kind of uh, study habits or study program for an athlete do you have? How,
Mhm.
will you support? I guess a study support. Maybe I'll say that. Do you
Yes.
have for me as a student athlete coming in? And I think
Mhm.
that also eases the mind of parents as well, especially when
Yes.
parents have really zero authority in this whole recruitment process. I felt
Mhm.
like a nothing. I was like, okay, so I would try to talk to my kids and say, can you say this? Can you ask this? Can you make sure
Yes.
you know
It
you
that's very important that you do that, because there are a lot of coaches, they are really in awe for the student athletes that speak more to the coaches than their parents during those visits. Like, they really do pay attention to all of that. So yes, if you can make a list of questions before you actually go on the visit. If you also, the school is telling, or the team is telling, when you ask the question, what is the graduation rate of your athletes? Currently, what is the overall GPA of your team? What support systems are you doing? What things do you have in place as resources to help with that? Um, what type of classes are they taking? Because some teams, the majority of them may be taking kinesiology or phys ed classes. But what does it look like if I want to be an engineer? What does it look like if I want to be something else? And I actually have a list of questions that can get you started on my website. They're free to download. Um, Things that you really should be asking, and I also listed why you should be asking those questions. Don't be afraid to call after you visited, in case you have questions that pop up. I know in my adult brain, there's things that I say, oh man, I should have done that. And I know it didn't just start as an adult. So when inquisitive minds, inquisitive minds, that just shows how dedicated you are to that. Um, Also,
oh,
I did mention about, oh, go, sorry, go
oh
ahead.
mention your website because you said it's on your website. So what is
Yes.
the website?
Yes. So the website is www.theballcode.com. That's TheBallCode, the ball code. And they can download a free copy of that. But what I was going to say is the online researching, because a lot of people aren't able to actually get to the colleges, or they may not get a chance to visit the college that they wish to visit. So you can do your online research. You can see, what does the website look like? Does it answer your questions? Can you call somebody in the department that you would like to major in and just have them explain to you more about their department? If you have like a little OCD, and organization is like something that's important to you, is the website updated? What does that look like? Because that might kind of tell you what type of college that you will be attending. Look at reviews, look at the hashtags, see the pictures on social media, look to see what this campus is actually doing, um, not just for athletes, but for the student population in general. Because even if you get hurt and can no longer play, you still are a student.
Hmm.
Um, those things are, I think, important for the athletes to research.
And I totally agree. So this has been
Yes.
a wealth of information, but before, because I know that's pretty much your tip, but before you leave this platform, I want to say I am so
Yes.
proud of you because you have a book out. You're an
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about your book before we wrap up?
Yes, ma'am. And I have it here. So I don't know if everybody can see this, or
The mental.
but it is the mental state of sports. Yes. So I actually presented on this topic at the Black Student Athlete Summit in Houston this past May. And it's pretty much a breakdown of what that actually means. The mental state of sports basically is athletes who use sports as a coping mechanism, dealing with whatever it is that they've been dealing with outside of sports. Um, but more so, it has 12 chapters. I call them 12 mental blocks, and those are all of the mental aspects, or not all of the mental aspects, but a lot of the mental aspects that surrounds the athlete. So the transfer portal we talked about earlier is one of the chapters in here. How does that um, what does that look like? How does that feel when a student enters in and they don't have a school to recruit them out of that, or they go to a school and it may be uh, still may not be the best situation because the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Um, so there's a lot of things that surrounds the athlete mentally, and I just put it on out there. It's an interactive group. Another thing that makes it unique is there are sections throughout the chapters strictly just for the parents and as well as for the coaches.
Nice, nice. Well, congratulations on your book. And
Thank
how
you.
can anyone, is it on Amazon? How can folks get the book?
Yes. So when you go over to retrieve your free copy of the 10 questions to ask, my book is also on the same website, www.theballcode.com. So it's your one-stop shop.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Z. Thank you so
Thank
much for being,
you.
for providing your tip again. And
Absolutely.
you are always welcome on the Campus Bound GPS October tip stage. And we appreciate you. We appreciate the knowledge that you're sharing with our student athletes out there. I think it's amazing. I pray that these students out there are listening and taking
Yeah.
notes, because it's a lot. And
Yeah.
you are one avenue to help
Mhm.
get students on their way. So thank you for that.
And thank you for having me. I love coming to your show. You do an awesome job. You do an awesome job with your October tips.
Thank you so much. So, on that note, we are wrapping up day 24. So, we still have a few more days to go. We're still in October. We have more tips coming up. So, I want you all to continue to watch. Z, again, thank you. And thank you all who are out there. I want you to have a good night and always, always, always stay safe. Bye
Yes.
bye.
Bye.